Welcome again to the Kentucky Democratic Auxiliaries Candidate Training Series. I'm Anna Whites, an election and politics attorney and proud counsel for the Auxiliary and many of our Democratic candidates, officials, elected in PACs across Kentucky. It's such a joy to see candidates running this year, and we are trying to make it easier for them by providing easy access to education. So if this is your first series one in the series, please go to our website at the Kentucky Democratic Auxiliary. We have a campaign handbook with some simple suggestions. We have a video on campaign planning. We have a video on staff and who do I need, including template contracts, template campaign plans, template NDAs, and some other good resources that you can print out, modify, and use in your campaign. I really recommend using contracts with all your contractors and your campaign staff just because this is a real thing you're doing with real money and real responsibilities, and it helps everybody to know in black and white in writing how we do this. Today's uh, today's program is on fundraising, and that's the core of any campaign. If you don't have money, you can't campaign effectively. And so we're trying to really make it easy for candidates to know what they should do and what they need to do. So today we have two experts to talk about two different aspects of fundraising. The first will be Elizabeth Trebelhorn. Elizabeth is one of those extroverted, organized, extroverted, intuitive people who know what it takes to bring people into a room and get them excited and sharing ideas. I'm endlessly impressed by how she can weave together any group of people and make them a cohesive, hardworking whole. So she's going to talk to us a little bit about how she does planning for events or parties or get-togethers because you're running and it's hard. You may as well have fun at the fundraisers. There's no reason to host a fundraiser with a little lukewarm punch and some very sad broccoli sitting on a tray. Let's make it something new, interesting, and exciting. And then we will hear from Mike Van Winkle, who has sold many things, including vacuum cleaners, I think, and cars. And Mike is an expert at call time and how to do those difficult asks. And Mike tells us if he can sell things like cars and vacuum cleaners, you can certainly sell yourself because you are a much more enjoyable and valuable commodity. So, Elizabeth, take it away. As we go through, I may interject occasionally with my lawyer perspective or a little caveat or warning if something comes up, but otherwise, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. I will welcome any interruptions or throw-ins that you may have. Um, and Hi, I'm Elizabeth Trebelhorn. And as Anna was saying those very nice things about me, it made me think of the phrase, we are a village. And I think that I grew up kind of as a latchkey child, I guess you would say. And so I was raised in the village and learned lots of different things from people, but kind of what leaning into other people can do for you. And so I think that's my start is your volunteers. I think that was when Fatima, who is running here as a nonpartisan candidate in Frankfort, started to run. I immediately said, I'm your campaign manager, free of charge, as some of these things at a local level would expectedly go. But the first thing I did was get the list of all the people who said that they wanted to help, and I hold those lists very dearly. I feel like I have, set on different campaigns and different things of like, let me know how I can help. And then no one reaches back out to ask for my help. So none was given. But we started early, and within 4 weeks, we had a team of 13 with a task. Two were going to do events. And I'll be honest, it's hard for me to let go of some of that control because I do love it so much. But being campaign manager has a bigger role and lots of other things to do. I'll just say that, yeah, delegating, engaging your volunteers, and keeping good communication with them and following up regularly with that. I guess in general, for me, event starts with some kind of vision and having a marketing and design. Whether you already have your logo, if you've already had that, that was one of the first things we did. I'll say Anna is very good about saying get your name big and out there, big bold letters out in the eyes. So that was our focus. We did pay for a marketing package, which did pay off. And once we've had that, and in my other roles, not just in this, I feel like I am quickly learning how rich it is to have a good marketing person. There are those out there that do contracting and can put together a package for you. But once they had that, I took it, was able to make a welcoming sign for the event, the invite for the event, signs, take what they started and just kind of grow that in my vision. And so then I think, and that's something, again, we started early, and I'm noticing that from other candidates right away. Oh, I like your branding, and I kind of can't wait to see how their event matches their branding of who they are and what their campaign's going to be like. So, um, I think the next thing would be to think about what your goal is of the event. For this particular candidate that I'm working for right now, it was a launch event. Um, I've been to several political events that are strictly fundraising events. And so I think trying to figure out what return you are wanting, and if it's getting financial supporters or engaging volunteers. I think that's, understanding what that is. And for me, volunteers is also money because we're not paying them. No one is paid on this campaign. And so I greatly appreciate the hours that everybody, and for a lot of our volunteers that we've pulled in this time, none of them had ever been to a political event. And we have volunteers that can't even vote, but they're out today handing out t-shirts and bumper stickers and driving around town. And I greatly appreciate what they can bring to that. And so again, this last event was really amazing for me because it was a lot of people who've never been to a political event before who now got to see for the first time what that was like.
And Elizabeth, how do you find out how to reach out to people who've never been to a political event? Because I know we all use the same tried and true lists, but this is a new approach when you're calling in people who aren't necessarily working in the field and are new voices, new faces, new energy.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that has to do with the candidate who also is very great at having a voice, has a following of 15,000 followers. So social media, mainly a lot of texting individually, digital invite, sending individual text. We did a RSVP, but really didn't hang into that RSVP too much because people come and go into an event. And so that's kind of one thing in location. We knew we had a capacity of 50. And so, but people were going to be rotating. So we felt pretty good. We knew we had probably about 100. And in that rotation, we're going to be okay.
Elizabeth,
Go ahead.
I just want to jump in quickly. Would everybody
Yeah.
please keep their audio muted until we get to the Q&A time? Because if you do any noise at all, it pops you up on the screen. So mute your audio. Thank you.
I will say one of the other things is send it to your listservs that, our Democratic committee to send out to push your young Dems, pulling in them. And that's something our candidate did. She's also in touch with the ACLU, sent the ACLU list. And even though they're not in our district, they bring financial people in. And so we've had probably over $2,000 donated from Louisville groups than Frankfort groups. And I'll say this, I am happy about this, is that, being a small local campaign, you don't need as much money. I'm not sure how much you all need, but we've already met our fundraising goals. So I'm pretty tickled with that. We will raise more because we will keep doing more. There's definitely more that we can get into ads and things like that. But being only, less than a month in, I'm pretty excited about that. And so let me think here for a second. Oh, as far as also inviting people, we invited all the people that were going to be on the ticket. I think one of the things that we're being careful for is not trying to show preference over, because we're nonpartisan, inviting everybody. If you take one picture with one, you take a picture with all of them. Like, so we invited all of them. Also, other people in political positions who aren't running is also a good thing, because you do have other people who are running, and it's a good time to network and to get them connected as well. So, and then people who can lift your cause, inviting them particularly would be, hopefully that answers that, Anna. If you have anything else to add on that, I'll take in your information as well.
That is a great answer. And how do you decide where or what type of event? Because I'm seeing a lot of events at breweries, but I'm also seeing a lot of pushback because if we're trying to draw in younger people or older people or folks who don't don't drink, that can be a problematic site. So what are you seeing as, or how do you decide what's a good creative place for a fundraiser?
Yeah, so I usually start with what's free, what's cheap. We one of the advice that I've been given from somebody in the campaign management world is to fill a room. You don't want a big room with that looks like it's not well attended. So for this one we had like smaller rooms. The space was free. We were going to purchase food, appetizers, light, and then cash bar. You pay for your own liquor because I'm not covering that bill. We don't have that much money yet. But I do enjoy those political events that do provide that. But also with that, providing the alcohol, one thing we did in this event was also make sure we had a mocktail and non-alcoholic drinks available. So that was something that was important to the candidate that I'm working with now, was accessibility and realizing that we do have a lot of friends and people who don't drink, but still want to be able to come to an event and have something good and nice besides water, or lemonade or tea. Go ahead, Anna.
And accessibility is a point that I'm hearing more and more because so often our events are in somebody's home or in a historic building, and those we do struggle with accessibility, not just with regard to having a mocktail or not, but folks in wheelchairs, folks who are disabled, folks on the autism spectrum. So I'm encouraging candidates, think about who you need to vote for you. And if you advertise your event as handicapped accessible, that's a really strong statement of your belief that those are important voters to you. So that, or a child-friendly event or an event with mocktails, is really something to put on your invite, or at least in your buzz, your word of mouth, because we're trying to draw new people in every time.
Yeah, and with that, one of the things with this last event, it wasn't a historical home. That was a choice of the candidate, and that's fine. But at the next one, we want lower floors. The air was not something we could control as much as we wanted to. It was these rainy days recently, and it felt gross, but beyond all of our control. And so not everything's going to be perfect. But one of the things was we were serving cocktails. And so you would think more on some of these events that I've been to, you have high tops and there's standing and there's, this. Well, if the venue offers tables and chairs and tablecloths and all that stuff, I'm not going to be upset. I was like, oh, do I rent high tops to bring in? And then actually we just separated the chairs, made it comfortable. And I was actually very glad that we did that because we did have a lot of older population, and high tops would have not been friendly for them. So I was actually very grateful that that worked out, and that was a good decision and lesson learned for that. So let's see. And so that was another thing, was what can the location provide? Because if you're going to get into, rentals, tables and chairs and all those things, a few $1,000s would probably be what I would expect to pay for that. So then I guess the next part that I was thinking of, Anna, is that knowing your audience and engaging them. I always like to make sure that that there's some kind of light background music. of some sort, and that the lighting, I'm one that pays attention to lighting. This space had lots of natural lighting. The beautiful chandeliers didn't need anything. I do purchase for other events. I do have this thing called uplighting. They're cheap on Amazon. If you want to throw your political colors into something, get a $20 uplight and put them in a room somewhere. They're very easy, light, not hard to move, and can be used for lots of things. One other thing is this particular candidate that I'm with is young, has lots of young friends. She had a Polaroid camera and said, "Oh, I'd love to take Polaroid pictures." And I was like, fantastic. We'll get some Polaroids. And we put them on a table, and people were taking pictures of themselves, putting them on the table, signing them, and having fun, writing notes and stuff like that. We did also have a photographer. I feel like a lot of the political events I go to, there is somebody designated taking pictures. It's a good way to remember your event, a good way to then, post about your event and thank your attendees, and kind of show your support, that that you do have that support publicly. So that, I think, photo, and I love when somebody comes up and wants to take a picture. So, I mean, that's fun too. We did in this last one also have a backdrop. And so I think that was fun as well. That was something that we invested in to do and to have for other events. And again, for this younger candidate, seeing Andy Bashir at all of his amazing events with all his big backdrop, it was like, oh, we want an Andy back, want one like him. And that was something we got early on to do. Anna,
Well,
was
we're
there something?
talking about taking photos, which is great. And really, I like the way you encouraged folks to take them and to post them and to share them, because that really advertises your candidate free. It is important, if you are using any photos in campaign materials, mailers, that you let people know, particularly if you're sharing children, because there
Okay.
are situations where, maybe the parents are not together, or it's a foster child and you're not supposed to publicize that child. You want to be very sensitive to that. So I tell candidates, if you're posting a kid, I would love you to get a signed waiver if you're using it in a campaign ad or a campaign social media post. So just another thing that your campaign staff need to remember: be respectful if you're posting things online. For adults, well, if you're standing there next to a candidate and you get into an ad, there you go. But with a child, you can get in real trouble. It's always nice, though, if you're using a photo in a mailer and you can identify even the adults to get their permission, so you don't run into any legal problems along the way.
Yeah. I work for a nonprofit, so we are notorious at getting the back of heads, getting good shots from the back of people's heads. But yes, absolutely, for kids, and we will be doing that as well. I did say in another thing when I'm thinking of photos is those people of influence. If you can invite somebody that is going to welcome the candidate, or announce the candidate, that can host. But in events that I've all worked, there's a person of influence that's either speaking or attending, and it may be 5 minutes in and out with a picture. But we care about that. And so it does make for a good event. So that's kind of like some of the out stuff, Anna. And then I can kind of go more into detail if you want, depending on how much time you want.
Sure. If you want to do a little more detail, we'll try and give you another probably 5 or 6 minutes, and then we'll transition over to Mike. I was thinking that when we're publicizing this and sharing it, it's important to remember, particularly if you're running for Kentucky House or Senate, that everyone who is running and everyone who is an incumbent is allowed to buy tickets to a fundraising event or meet and greet. So you folks in the House and Senate races should be inviting everyone on your side in the House and Senate, because if those folks come or contribute to your event, that's a very useful way to gather their information, but also to have them show support for your campaign. Under the Registry of Election Finance, they can pay $100 and come to every single event they want to if they have that in their campaign chest. So never neglect to invite your peers, particularly the incumbents.
And I have not been to an event, well, the political event that I have had to pay for, thank goodness, because I'm not a big money person. But I have been in the nonprofit world, definitely the case. And also when you have that mic, make sure to recognize them in the room. And this, as nonpartisan, but at other political events, recognize your peers that are there and publicly would be something that I would recommend to thank them for their support there. So from
Elizabeth,
yeah, go ahead.
do you have any do you have any sort of checklist for events that you could provide?
I could certainly come up with something to send to Anna, and she could probably make sure it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that and post it on the site so that people can look at it and go through it and be like, oh my gosh, I forgot my uplighting, or to check music,
You're funny.
because background music is very rare
It
and I
is.
love that.
Yeah, just a little, just something. It doesn't have to be a lot, a whole lot. The venue that we were at had it. I just made sure I was okay with the music, that it, was going to be okay for everybody. But nothing, nothing too loud. I just don't want it to be quiet. And then Anna, that Chris said, you can invite all the caucus members. They can give you $200 at every event. So that's good to know. Um, so yeah, next with that, one of the first things I think of when I come to an event is going to the sign in and donation table. That is at every event. It's the first place you go. And I do that, having everybody sign in so you can get a count for how many people attended your event, but also getting their addresses, their phone numbers, so that you can add those into your contact list. I also like to make sure that I have on there, like, would you like to donate? Would you like to volunteer? Would you like a yard sign? Let me go ahead and capture that so I can make sure I will touch base with you and follow up. I will say and then also on that volunteer sheet now, if you're, QR codes are big. So like that with, also on that sign in table, you have your envelope cards. And I will say there is a difference between local level and state level campaigns on what is required on those cards. So just check with KREF on what you need for that, but I'm happy to send our local candidate example that I just did for that. And it's like a difference of needing to know your spouse's information or your partner's information, which I'll be honest with me, I don't like it. So I do the $100 cash every time. My husband works in a nonpartisan position. So I don't want his name on stuff or else in a political realm. So I try to keep his name out of it. But the QR codes I put on the sign-in sheet, QR codes all around the venue, all around your space, is a popular thing now. So we did put a sign on every table with a QR code. I'll say one of the things at the table that I kind of hate are these stickers. Everybody likes to have a sticker that you put your name on so everybody can like say each other's name and know it. And I get that, but those stickers come off your suits and your nice dresses and coats so easily and get stuck in your hair. And like your stickers on somebody's back over there and you don't find it later. So if you're gonna get a sticker, make sure it's a really good sticky. I don't know. I don't like that. Find another. Anna, if you have any ideas or thoughts on those stickers?
I do not, but I sympathize unless you're going to do lanyards. And I have seen some candidates with super cheap strings and lanyards, and you stick the sticker just on the little plastic thing on your lanyard. That would solve the problem. If the lanyard said your candidate's name, they're probably going to go home and give it to their kid or hang it up, and the
Yeah,
candidate's name
yeah.
will travel. But I do tell candidates invest in a sign that has your name on it, metal, plastic, whatever. I hate seeing a candidate in a stick-on sign. You're in this for a month at least, hopefully for a year, and hopefully for the rest of your life. Get something that has your name on it and wear that every time.
Yeah.
And here's Chris is giving us another hint.
Emails,
Uh,
emails, emails. A good active email list is worth its weight in gold for campaigns now. It's always good to ask for email addresses everywhere you go. And let's see. Let me look at got the name tag. Yeah, and I just, with that, I like that we did not do name tags at this last event. And I was like, oh, do I do, pin stickers? But then I think of dresses and girls and silk and pinning things, so I think about what you want to do on that. The next thing I would think about is your timing of your event. We kind of feel like an hour and a half to 2 hours is generally, Anna, you can tell me that. But as far as speaking goes, I'd say at least 30 minutes in to your start time. And then I don't personally like to hear somebody speak for more than 20 minutes. And that's for just about any event. And that comes from being a nonprofit and seeing like an hour-long presentation. And I'm like, people are sitting on their wallets. Let's get them up. Like,
Yeah,
let's get
I
them.
am definitely with you on short. I see nothing wrong with a 5 minute speech.
Yeah,
People are going to start talking to their friends and blocking you out after 5 or 10 minutes
yeah.
anyway. I'm always super excited if someone says, I'm going to give you a 5 minute speech and does, and then I can move on to drinking and socializing and enjoying the event. So you don't have to speak a lot. Give your core values, reinforce your name 7 million times, and move on. And Elizabeth, you've got like 2 more minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna go. I'll try to go through fast. And if have somebody introduce you, and if it's another politician, someone that you look up to, or the person that's hosting, I think it's good for them to welcome everybody and then introduce you into it, and then you can, make sure to end it with thanking everybody and them enjoying their time and stuff like that. I only have two more things, Anna, and this one is I say this is maybe my age group again too, maybe like offering freebies where you can. And that could be something like a button, or a sticker, like a bumper sticker, that they can then take and put their name out. People like to wear the pins out on their, they'll put them on their purse, they'll put their bumpers, and that's just your name going out there even more. But I've also been convinced that they like a little bourbon ball, like put that in a little treat bag. That's fun too. So something as small as that, if you're going to offer again free food, that's going to pull people in. Again, I would limit another thing on the food is making sure you have vegetarian and gluten-free options, because I've been in those categories and you get hungry and you want to leave. And so when you can't eat and stay and have a drink or certain like that, you likely want to leave. Um, but let's see what else. Oh, the drinking, just being careful with that. I know in some of Andy's events, well, in the inauguration, giving so many like tickets. If you're going to provide, maybe you want to provide one free drink per thing. One thing we did at this last one was like, can you bring down your cheap wine and just have them ready for our people? Like, go ahead and, bring that in and limit a ticket. And then it's cash bar after that, whatever your budget can allow. And then every event, what I like is feedback. I want to hear from all my volunteers. I want to hear from I want to hear from some guests, their experience of what happened, because I always feel like there's areas to improve. On this last event, it was hot. It's like, yeah, I'm with you. It was hot. But again, those are some things that I can't control. And then we were able to clear up some logistics from like the sign-in sheets. So like I spent the last day clearing up my logistics for that, for the next event. All right, that's it, Anna.
And we had one more reminder from candidate Sarah Ritter that kosher options are good too. And it is excellent to remember that we want people to be excited about our events and coming to them. It should be a party for everyone, and having food and drink that everyone can enjoy is the right way to do it. Also, reaffirming yes, swag, give something. I don't care what it is, if it's a 10-cent sticker or a gumball, give something. People love swag.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth,
You're
and
welcome.
we appreciate you, and we'll put up your little checklist on our website.
All right, thank you. I'll work on that.
Okay, and now, Mike, if you want to scare us into being good call time participants, over to you.
Thanks, Anna. Well, in case some of you don't know me, my name is Mike Van Winkle. I'm the owner of Orion Printing and Specialties, and I cater basically to the Democratic Party. I'm also the former owner of Bluegrass Turf and Landscape. I'm the former marketing manager for Service Master for the TruGreen branches in Lexington, Louisville, and Cincinnati. I was also the general manager of Greens Toyota for a while. Unfortunately, Anna, I've never sold a vacuum cleaner in my life. But anyway, I've won several national awards from the Evergreen Marketing Group from Toyota. I've won some accolades from the Lexington Herald Leader, and I've been the marketing manager for the year of TruGreen for 6 years running. I'm a former candidate. I'm a proud Democrat, and I'm also a Cherokee. And I want to thank everybody for your time and interest in the program. So let's go ahead and get this started. Everybody, if you want to take your phones off mute, because I like to do interactive. So the first thing that I want to talk about is your calling universe. Now you can get that information from the KDP for like $500. Now, in addition to that, you can also buy independent lists and you can actually develop your own. Now, I prefer developing my own because you can look at, who are the heads of the unions, the school teachers, who's the movers and shakers, and then you can develop those calling universes, because you don't want to just take a big lump of names and just start calling, because you have to have very specific pitches for whoever you're talking to. Now, this is a question for everybody. On a call time, what do you think is an appropriate length of time to call somebody on the phone and talk to them?
5 minutes.
Okay, I got a 5 minute. Okay, anybody else? Well, there's data all over the internet, and from my experience of running telemarketing rooms, you have 2 minutes. That's it. So what you want to do is a good introduction, keep it short and sweet, to the point. You're not trying to befriend these people as much as you are being courteous, polite, getting your ask out there and thanking them for their time. So let's talk about, how do we set up a call team? What you want to do is you want to find people that are pretty well spoken, that don't have a lot of stutters and things like that. What you want to do is people that have pleasant voices, people that show energy when they're speaking to you. And the most important thing for your call team is this: keep them motivated. Don't care if you bring in a vegetable tray, a fruit tray, pizza, pops, whatever it is. And along with that, when they have success on a phone call, you want to praise these people, because they're doing work for you for free. It could be an attaboy or a high five or some other little way of thanking them. And I will agree with the first speaker that you also want to have swag there. Something to offer these people for showing up, whether it be, like they said, a button, a sticker, whatever it is. Keep energy in the room. But you also have to have somebody that is in charge of your call time. Okay. So the person that you select, whether it be you, the candidate, or your campaign manager, or your IT person, whoever it is, they need to understand that, they have to teach these people the pitch, and they need to practice it with them, and let the call team practice on each other before they ever make the first phone call. Because the worst thing you could do is grab a piece of paper, start calling numbers, and have no idea what you're supposed to be saying. Okay. There's several parts to a good pitch. Okay. Everybody in the room needs to know why they are calling, whether it's asking for money, a vote, sweat equity, whatever it is. But everybody needs to know the general reason why the call is going to occur. The first part, you guys may want to write this down, you may not, I don't know, is the introduction. And it's really as simple as saying, hey, this is Mike Van Winkle. I'm calling on behalf of Jane Doe, the candidate running for X office. And the second part of this pitch is real simple as well, is the pitch itself. Now, but let's use raising funds, okay? You need to give the person a reason why they need to be able to donate, that you need to explain that your candidate is the alternate choice, the grassroots candidate, whatever the case may be. That's the first and most important thing. And a couple pitfalls that you're going to watch out for are closed-in questions that lead to an obvious yes or no answer. An example of that would be something like, do you prefer this color over that color? Or you could use two different topics from the candidate's campaign. Is one of the main things you worry about when you're voting women's rights to their own body, or do you worry about public education? Give them an option. Keep them engaged in the conversation. And the pitch should basically last no more than about 45 seconds to 1 minute. Okay. And then comes what's called the ask. And I usually transition with a statement like, now, with that in mind, Anna, we really need your support. How can you help us? A lot of people do 100, some people do 50, some people give as low as 10 or 20. What can we expect from you today? And they just be quiet. Now, some people are like, oh, well, what if they go to no? Well, obviously, if they're going to go to no, there's a second question you, as the caller, need to be made. Well, we understand that maybe somebody's finances aren't in the shape to be able to give money. Could you help us out with a little sweat equity? Could you help us with some call time, filling out some postcards? Would you mind going door to door with us to hang door hangers? And what you need to do is you need to be capturing all the data from everybody that you talk to, because you will actually reuse this same information later. Because if these people have given money or sweat equity, you need to capture all the information, not just their name and their telephone number. You need to know where they're at in the district. And you need to know if they're the only Democrat in the family, if it's a family full of Democrats, independents, what they are. So that way, when the campaign starts winding down and the money starts running out, you've got a list and bank of names you can go back to and say, hey, look, we need to finish strong. We need everybody to pitch in $10, $5, whatever it is to get you to the end. Now, at the end of the call, it's real simple. It's the closing. Anna, I want to thank you for taking your time up today to talk to me, and I appreciate whatever they did. Now, has anybody got any questions as far as how we can improve your call time or about the calling universe?
Well, Mike, reminder, if it's just the candidate doing the call time, his or herself or themselves, you won't have a team. And so you need to apply these same rules to you. And it's very hard, I've found, as candidates to keep themselves accountable. And so if you have a friend, a spouse, a family member, somebody really grouchy and short attention span, have that person next to you. Because if you start going on and you're over your 2 minutes or 5 minutes, you need somebody there to say, okay, time's up, get to the ask, or hold up a big post-it that says dollars, and hold yourself accountable as the candidate if you're doing it rather than as a team. If you're a candidate who's driving a lot to fundraisers, have somebody in the car driving, and you make the call time, and they can remind you if you're getting a little long-winded or too friendly or wasting time. You need to stay on schedule. More than 5 minutes is ridiculous, and so candidates really need to train themselves to be able to get through those pleasantries, make the ask, make the connection, and move on.
Right. Now, to tie on with that as well, by all means, take your presentation, your pitch. If it's your spouse or your significant other or just a friend, let them hear you say it. Say it 3 or 4 times. Record yourself saying it. Listen to it back. One of the big pitfalls that a lot of people make when they're making phone calls is they speak way too fast. Now, you may sound fine to you, but when you're nervous, 99% of the people speed up. So be deliberate when you speak to somebody about asking for money. Now, another thing that I actually didn't mention, but I definitely need to mention, if you don't have your Act Blue in place now, please get it in place. Now, you can make these phone calls without taking credit card numbers over the phone. Direct them to the websites or the Facebook page that has a link to the Act Blue, because 99% of the people are not just going to be willfully handing over the credit card information because of the scammers that are all over the place. Now, one interesting thing that I had a candidate do here is she gives thank you gifts for different levels of support. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that, because they feel like the person that you're talking to becomes part of the team. And like I said, capture as much information about everybody that you talk to as possible, because you're actually building a lot better calling universe than you're going to be able to purchase online or through the KDP, because you have interaction and a connection with these people to start with.
Mike?
Also, don't forget to reach out to whoever ran for your seat before you, if there are former candidates around or former incumbents around, and ask them for their list or any help they can give you. Some candidates are really possessive with their lists, but some are very open about sharing, hey, hit this person up. Here's a good speech. This is this person's particular interest. They'll give you the max if you talk about cats. And that sort of information is very, very valuable. So ask anyone who's run for your seat or anything like it recently.
Absolutely, because maybe their entire base doesn't know who you are as a candidate or a first-time runner or something like that. It's a lot easier to win these races especially if you're coming from grassroots, to pull as much support as you can from previous candidates. If you're running unopposed from the county parties in the district, because there's a lot of women in these Democratic women's clubs that love to help. Now, when I ran back in 2020, they were absolutely invaluable. They did call time for me. They filled out postcards. They wrote letters. They posted all over Facebook. Call time is important, but it's a complete package deal. Like that lady that talked before me, you talking about these house parties. That's a great way to get money quick. These call times will eventually catch up as far as the number of people that you talk to. Now, my one suggestion would be, whenever you get to a stopping point during your call time, just take a highlighter. This is the person I stopped on. Don't start back at the beginning. Start where you left off and finish that list, and then move on to, say, your next calling universe. Like I say, if you're going to be talking to college-age kids, the most important thing is to tell them to get out and vote, volunteer, give what they can. If you're talking to somebody with a few years, somebody that's maybe retired, say, maybe they can't go knock doors, but maybe they can give you $100 instead. So you need to know who you're talking to, and you need to lump as many like-minded people together as you can in one single universe, because that is absolutely critical for success.
So, Mike, you may have been planning on covering this, but how do you build your calling universe? How do you build your lists?
Okay, how I typically build my list is, well, when I started, I got access to the KDP list, and I went through it and basically took the jumble and basically said, okay, these people are in the 18 to 25 range. These people are 26 to 49. And then I went 50 and over. And then I went even further. Then I went back and separated the list again to women voters and men voters. And then I went into ethnicity votes. And I crafted a particular pitch for who I was talking to. So, like I said, the KDP's list is pretty good. I actually bought a couple online, and you can go and just do a Google search for call lists. There's hundreds of them out there, and I'm not sure one's any better than the other. But, it's all about the prep work before you actually start making the phone calls. It's, have a deliberate system. Who do you want to reach out to? Who are you going to be strong with? Who are you going to be a little bit weaker with? Are you more comfortable on this topic or that topic? And then that's the way you start disseminating all that raw information up front, because it's just like an alphabet soup if you don't kind of separate it out and have a correct presentation to whoever you're speaking to.
And not necessarily related to that, but I'm really encouraging candidates, particularly in central Kentucky or Kentucky counties that have a high Hispanic population, to make sure that they have either learned a few words in Spanish or have somebody on their team who can speak Spanish, because reaching out to folks in their actual native language really gives you, they know that you're interested in them, they know that you care about them. They know that you are accessible to them in a way that you wouldn't be if there is no Spanish language on your team. Even if it's just a sign, even if it's just your introduction in Spanish, and direct them to maybe your website that has a line in Spanish, donate here. It's very important to recognize what a huge voting bloc these folks are, and to stop ignoring them, to invite them into the team. We have a lot of wonderful folks who are not working in politics simply because we haven't said, you're important to me, please join my campaign.
And I think that's a great point. You could actually add that into any call presentation very easily. I mean, you move it past the ask, but I think that, inclusive messaging is going to be far more successful than negative politics, because you're actually going to have a message, you have a game plan, and you have solutions to their everyday problems. And I think as candidates, I think we get down in the weeds a little too often. I'm not saying take all the inflammatory speak you're going to get from your opponent, but well, that you can turn it around and say, hey, they don't have a plan. And here's what I'm going to do to make your life better. And I think all that can be supporting evidence why this person should either support your candidacy, give you money, offer sweat equity, and, include as many people as from the family as you can. I've always asked, if I'm talking to one generation, hey, do you have these sons, daughters, children, grandmas, whatever, that would appreciate a phone call from you today? Because I'd really like to talk to as many people in the district as I can. So there's no problem with, having your own little calling universe based off of what the people that you're talking to off these bought lists can provide to you. And honestly, I think that would be much more effective than just picking up a phone book and trying to call people. And I think that's where a lot of candidates make the mistake. Now, when I ran, and this was just in a state house race, I raised almost $10,000 making telephone calls. And it was literally no more complicated than what I just told you, because I didn't try to befriend anybody. I was sincere. I made my ask, and I thanked them for their time.
And don't forget to keep the list, because after you win your primary, people can give again, even if they gave the max during the primary, they can give again during the general. So save that list for post-election so you can circle back to your donors.
Well, and also to tag onto that, Anna, keep a percentage. Find out, hey, I called 500 numbers off of this list. I contacted, 13% of it. And you can have a running total which one of these had the highest contact rate and success rate from the contact. And then that way, when you go back through your second call, you obviously will know where you can expect the most support. You don't want to be calling what I always refer to as a dead list that, you're not getting any support from or anything like that, because at that point in the game, it's just busy work. There's a reason for the call, and you need to remember that in the back of your head the whole time you're on the phone. Because like I said, contacts are important, but closure rate has got to be in with that equation.
So, Mike, let's ask the question. What's a reasonable answer rate and a reasonable conversion rate?
Okay, now, they're two totally separate things there, Bruce, and I'll explain to you why. Your contact rate on the KDP, from what I've seen when I helped Chris with his campaign, was about 8%. So for every 100 phone calls you make, you're going to get about 8 people that will answer your phone, that will answer the phone. Of those 8, your closing ratio should be somewhere around 20%. 15 to 25 is a really good, solid close rate. Now, in the second call, if you go through that list the second time, you can basically cut those numbers in half. But, like I said, it's all about the presentation and being respectful of the person's time on the phone. And, you want to talk to them, not necessarily at them.
And Mike, what do you do if you get an answering machine? Because an awful lot of cell phone calls go straight to answering machine.
Well, in that case, normally what I do is I will just do a hang up on that phone call, because leaving voice messages and you say, hey, I'm with Anna Whites for a U.S. president campaign, as soon as they hear that, they're either going to do one or two things. They're going to delete that text or that voicemail message, or they're going to block that number. Or sometimes you'll get lucky and they'll actually call you back because they're going to want to know who's on the other side of the phone. And if they call you back, that gives you an opportunity to basically return around, reset, start the presentation from the beginning again.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the same question of you that I ask of Elizabeth. Do you have any sort of handout on this or any sort of things to remember that we can post along with the video?
Sure. What I'll do, Bruce, is I've actually got this whole thing typed out. What I'll do is I'll actually email it to you later, if that's okay. Then you can post it however you want to. Will that work? Or
that'd be great.
Okay. So questions from anybody as far as call time and how to do a telemarketing campaign?
I don't know if this goes with, I haven't done calling for fundraising before, but calling for pushing the votes of different types. We did a bingo card, and that was kind of fun and engaging for the room. I don't know if anybody's done that before, but having a bingo card set up, they're out there templates of, phone got slammed in my face. Like I was told, no, I'm going to vote for blah, blah, blah. And then you mark it off your card and winner gets, whatever. It made it incredibly fun.
I mean, that's obviously a one way you can do it. What I have seen, as far as, especially if you're down on the phone calls, or the person that's listening to you actually make the pitch, sees there's a problem, go buy yourself an ice cream or whatever your favorite little vice is. A lot of people don't smoke anymore. Maybe you just need to stop, drink a cup of coffee, smoke a cigarette, get an ice cream, take 10 minutes to collect yourself. Call time can be pretty brutal. I mean, I'm not going to say it's all fun and games, but it doesn't always have to be miserable either. You keep the energy up, and nothing gives you more energy than being successful. When you make one presentation that is a success, I promise you, the more successes that you have breeds even more success, because you're confident in what you're speaking about. I look at it from a business position, is that, you need to have a set goal for how much money you need to raise. And you can do that on a day basis, a week basis, a monthly basis, or what have you. But you can adjust your call time to be meeting those goals, because when you meet your goals, that's actually money that's in your account to utilize for, leave behind material, door hangers, social media, newspaper advertising, radio spots, TV, whatever. But, you have to realize that this is how you're going to be one of the channels you're going to have to make money with. So you kind of have to.
What do you do when you get those answers where they don't just hang up on you or say, no, I'm voting for your opponent, but they want to engage in a hostile discussion? Do you just hang up?
Absolutely.
What do you do then?
Oh, absolutely not. Normally what I do on those phone calls is very simple. But Ms. White, obviously, you have your things that your hot buttons on, and we may not agree, or we may agree. Either way, it's okay. You're not my enemy. And when I win this race, I promise you, I'm going to represent you just as hard as I would somebody that does agree with me. And I do want to thank you for taking time to speak with me today. You have to continue to take control of the conversation. Once you've lost control of the conversation, there's no telling how they're going to bash on you. That we ran into that a lot in the Jackson County campaign that I ran, just because I'm a Democrat. I've been threatened to talk to like a dog, and I just tell them, hey, I don't have any ill will. We may not agree, but that doesn't mean we can't be friends. And, obviously I'm going to do my best to represent you. Don't let this person's negativity darken the mood or empower them either. Because what they're looking for is a response out of you. And if they feel like they've got under your skin, they win, and that solidifies their point. If you give them nothing, they feel like they've been defeated. And you can do that very politely. Bless their hearts. And that's basically how I handle situations like that.
And when you're doing the call time, or you're working with a team who's doing call time, is there a reasonable number of calls? Like, should you do, I know there's always the overachievers, and you hear I've done 6 hours of call time a day. And then there's the candidates who look at me and say, call time? Am I supposed to be calling people? So what is a happy medium, or is there one?
That really depends on the person. I can give you what I expected as a sales manager. Basically, I had them on the phone for an hour, off for 10 minutes. And like I said, that's when you offer them a piece of pizza, vegetable tray, go get them something to drink, sit them down and thank them, especially if they're looking a little bit worn or frustrated with the situation. Because the worst thing you can do is have somebody on the phone representing you, the candidate, that is not pleasant to talk. Penis in the voice, when somebody is in the doldrums and just dreading that somebody's going to pick up the phone. It may be 10 minutes in. You need to get that person off the phone immediately and get their head straightened up. And if they can't get remotivated, put them on another task. Hey, look, can you help me do this? Can you help me fill out some postcards while you're here? Maybe the call time's not for that person. So you have to, as the person in charge, you have to monitor what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, and identify if this person or yourself is not in the right state of mind to do this. That is absolutely critical, because if you're coming across badly or you're coming across negative, that would be probably as bad as making a faux pas in front of a TV camera, because you're basically, this person's going to talk to 10 people, tell them how awful the conversation was with you, the candidate, or somebody from your campaign. Whereas if it's a pleasant thing, they may say one or two people, hey, I got a call from so-and-so's campaign, really nice people. But if it's not pleasant, they'll tell everybody they know.
And I do think candidates in particular, if they're doing their own calls, need to remember that it is real life. Your dog is going to bark. Your partner is going to drop something in the kitchen. Your baby's going to cry. The garbage truck is going to pull up outside. And I encourage people, if something like that happens, humanize the moment and say, oh my gosh.
Yeah, laugh about it.
Yeah, my dog is looking at the mailman through the window or something. Don't be embarrassed. People love that personal connection. You may get a dog lover on the phone who's tickled and says, what kind of dog do you have? And you've immediately made a friend. So it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to go in the closet and shut the door and have this silent, serious environment. This is real life. They want to see you and connect with you as a real person.
Absolutely. And like I said, positive interactions, it's fine. I just think that just make sure you don't get caught up in the moment of this person, building you up, because at the bottom of the page, this is still a phone call. There's an ask involved. And, maybe if you get somebody that really likes you and wants to talk a little bit, maybe give them 4 or 5 minutes. And the dirty little thing is you may reach somebody, maybe a shut in or something, maybe nobody calls, and you don't want to be rude to the person, but there's some people that you can get on the phone with and they'll keep you 30 minutes to an hour. And basically they have just destroyed your call time for that day. And the sad thing about being a candidate is if you lose a day or you lose an hour, there is no making that up. So you have to make sure that you understand that there's still a purpose for call time and why you're doing it.
And one final reminder from me, and then we'll let Mike wrap it up. I got a call the other day from someone, a young candidate fundraising, and they said, this is so-and-so, I'm running for this office, and then said, and could you give me, and at the point that they're not confident in the ask, I'm not confident giving it to them. Why am I going to give you $200 if you can't even ask for it? So practice a lot and let someone listen to your call a lot, so that you are saying, I would like $200 because we are buying yard signs. Be very firm in that ask. As a society, we seem to be really cautious about talking about money, and we shouldn't. Unfortunately, money is king right now in politics. So make that ask big and bold. It doesn't need to be a shy begging. You're worth the funds. They should be delighted to give to you.
Right. Now, I will close on this, Anna. That's the reason why I break down the pitch and the ask as 2 different parts of the phone call. The pitch basically is you're giving them reasons why that they need to give money. Okay. And during your ask, you can basically reaffirm why. Hey, look, I'm running for, women to protect women and little girls. I'm going to protect school teachers, whatever the ism is. And that's why support for people just like you to my grassroots campaign. And the money that we raise is going to go for the yard signs. It's going to go for the printing. It's going to go for social media. Tell them why. And with that in mind, how much can you help me out with today? And that's the ask. And then just be quiet. Sometimes people take 30 seconds, 45 seconds to process what you've already said. And then they're trying to figure out, okay, what can I financially afford to give this person? So don't interrupt their train of thought. Just shut up. Let them answer the question. And in the car business, we always had a saying. Once you've made the ask, the first person that speaks next loses. So let them be the ones that open their mouth next. Don't you try to oversell it. And then if they say no, then you go back into your sweat equity ask. And do they know anybody else that could help out?
Thank you so much for you and Elizabeth both for sharing your expertise. It's been wonderful talking about an important and a difficult subject.
I think the biggest thing is to let people know that as much as we are uncomfortable with it, you have to learn to not be uncomfortable. You have to learn to believe that what you're doing is worth asking for, and then you have to just go after it and you have to go get it. I really want to thank Elizabeth and Mike for their insights, and anything they can send us that we can post would be good. And Miss Annie, you said we would take a few questions at the end, if there are any.
Yes, if you want to not record and give people the opportunity to ask questions if they don't want to be part of the.
Let me
Hey,
say thank you to Mike and Elizabeth, and we will post this on the website.